Yo guys, Punkrat, another video. Now with any social ecosystem, which World of Warcraft as an entity is definitely one on its own, there tends to be a language, slang, or ways of speaking that develop naturally over time by the members of said society. And of course, the world of Azeroth over the years has definitely developed its own over the last 15 years of its existence. Not only does World of Warcraft have its own language, and I don't mean Loktar Ogar, I mean more of the WTF oh my god BBQ sauce mate variety, but vanilla has its own unique character in the way that people communicate that has developed from back in 2005-2006 to even today, since the game has had a thriving fan base on official and unofficial servers for all these years headed into 2020. From vanilla to private servers, and now even adding in some new ones that have risen to the surface in WoW Classic as well. So that's the concept of this video, things WoW Classic players say. Let's get into it. Alright, so here's the first one. We sit at our desks for an awfully long time as World of Warcraft players, and unless you're Eric Cartman, you don't have access to a portable toilet maid. So that's really the thing. When it's time to go, it's time to go. But what do you tell your teammates? You don't say, BRB guy's gonna take a massive fire hydrant dump, right? No, of course not. We're civilized here, at least on the Alliance we are. Not sure about those barbarian hordes living in huts and shit on the other side. But when it's time for biology to take its course, we say exactly that. We say BRB Bio, abbreviated for BRB Biology, which means you need a bathroom break. Now you probably think of gamers as being toxic and just wanting to spam all kinds of, vile filth. But in this specific case, we're actually pretty reasonable and pretty civilized. So if ever you hear BRB Bio, it means bathroom break. Alright, now this one was definitely a big thing in the private server world, but I haven't really heard too much of it, at least on North American servers. I mean, I keep saying it, but I haven't really heard anyone else mention it. But I'm sure on European servers, people are saying this all the time. I'm referring to ass pull. So ass pull is when somebody accidentally pulls a pat or a second mob or a group of mobs and ends up wiping the raid or nearly wiping the raid or group. Now, in coming back to Classic, I've had my fair share of ass pulls as well. Personally, I'll admit it. I've actually been pretty bad with this, especially since I'm a lot of the times distracted with other things or trying to edit a video on the side as I'm doing a dungeon and not realizing that there's a pat behind me completely off my camera, and then I end up either wiping the group or causing a ruckus. I don't do it that many times, but I have done it a good amount of times. But it's just a short and concise and also kind of funny way to describe it, since you're pulling with your butt in a certain sense. Instead of saying, oh, this guy pulled this extra mob that was patting over there, you can literally just say, this dude ass pulled. I think it's a really good one. It's concise, it conveys the message, and it has a nice sense of imagery to it. So if somebody accidentally pulls something in your group, say, hey dude, don't ass pull things. Okay, so here's another one that's quite European. In fact, it's pretty much only European. The only people who know of this one are people who played on private servers back in the day, since all of those servers were posted in Europe. A lot of people from California, or in general on the east end of the US or North America, didn't want to play on those servers because they'd get 200 to 300 ping. And it was nearly impossible to launch up a private server in North America because immediately Blizzard would send a cease and desist letter. In fact, most of the European servers were hosted in Russia, where Vladimir Putin would basically take a dump on Blizzard's cease and desist letters. But this is one that it's honestly quite addictive, and I still use it to this day, and sometimes even in real life I use it. It's called CBA. And again, if you're from North America and you've never played on European servers, you have absolutely no idea what this means, I'm sure. It's an acronym for can't be arsed or can't be asked, similar to can't be bothered. And this is absolutely freaking spammed on European servers. Everything. Like, oh, CBA, mate. CBA, mate. You what, mate? Oh, CBA, mate. Like, just constantly. Okay, want to do this dungeon? Ah, CBA, mate. Hey, can you help me with this thing? Ah, CBA, mate. Oh, did you end up farming that one thing in that one zone? Ah, CBA, mate. It's just constantly spammed. I swear to God, I played on a bunch of European servers. I led a European guild at one point, and it said so many times that it works its way into your psyche, and you just start saying it all the time, and you become a CBA monster as well. But it's honestly a really good one, and it really conveys the message of just, I can't be asked, man, leave me alone. So it's a good one, and like I said, I use it all the time, even to this day. All right, now this one's quite funny to me because it's something that I've always said in my videos, and I had this one guy who would constantly comment in the comment section on a bunch of different releases that I've put out, and he was constantly saying like, why the hell are you saying this word? I hate it. It sounds so stupid when you say this word. And what he's referring to is the word pop. So if you've watched my videos, I'm always saying like, oh, you gotta pop your trinket here, and then pop this item here, and once you pop this, you pop this. And I just use pop all of the time. What popping refers to, obviously, is popping your cooldowns, popping a trinket, popping a buff, popping a consumable, a health pop, popping. And this is very often said in World of Warcraft lingo. And I feel like it conveys the message pretty well, like pop your cooldowns, guys, pop this. You know, it's a really easy way to tell people to use their cooldowns. And I feel like it flows off the tongue quite well. So if you're in a specific dungeon and you need to pop an item for something and someone's like, pop it, just know that he's telling you to use the item. He's not saying, you know, like pop it, like, I don't know, some sort of like, you know, pull out like a dance move or something. He's just saying, use the damn cooldown. Now here's another one that if you're new to the game, you might be hearing people say all the time and you might not know what they're talking about, but at this point, if you don't know what this means, I mean, people have just been spamming it. It's probably one of the most important things right now in terms of getting ready for endgame. It's BIS or pre-raid BIS. BIS just refers to best in slot, so it's the best item that you can get for each slot. So if you have a weapon that's the best item that you can get for your main hand, it's your BIS weapon or your pre-raid BIS weapon. So I'm not going to go too in depth on this one. If ever you guys see BIS, it means best in slot, the best item for said slot. Really simple. All right, now this one is definitely new to the ecosystem of Classic or Vanilla, however you want to call it, but it's something that is just absolutely spammed out there, especially on PvP servers or mainly on PvP servers. So before I even say it, let's do a little quiz here. Get ready to type in the comments. If somebody on Horde side kills you, what are they saying when they /yell right after they kill you? I'm sure you guys have experienced this one and you're probably writing it in the comments right now. What they say after they kill you is, go to retail. This has become the staple bad manners BM taunt from the Horde side towards the Alliance in World PvP, constantly being spammed by this. In fact, there's certain guilds that I've seen in their guild information tab, they have the code, or I guess the translation from Horde to Alliance inside the guild information tab, and it says, this is a mandatory macro to have. So you know typically that if you type something as an Alliance player towards a Horde player, it's going to come up all jumbled up. You're going to be speaking common, or same thing if it's a Horde person speaking to an Alliance player, you can't understand what they're saying. But there's ways to sort of bypass the encryption. And if you put some unique letters in a row with different spacing, you can spell out things and actually speak towards the Alliance. And the most common one is go to retail. And another one that I've seen that's pretty funny, but it's only used in certain scenarios because it's targeted towards specific people, is no hair. I'm sure you guys remember the Ooga Gang during the beta, but they're the ones who popularized it. So on this one, we've got go to retail and no hair, which are the BM practices in World PvP. Now this one, I don't really have to explain, and I'm gonna go really, really fast on this one since it's pretty much only specific to my server, and it's not gonna last so long. I mean, layering is gone. In general, it's Im to Asmon lair. Now, a lot of you guys I know specifically didn't roll on Fairlina because you wanted to stay away from that kind of thing, but from my experience on Fairlina, it's really not that common. It's kind of a little niche thing that happens every now and then, and in general, it's been a pretty good experience, even with Olympus 1 through 12, but that's definitely something that vanilla players are saying nowadays. It's become part of the cultural norm, I guess, in a certain sense. So we've got Im to Asmon lair, and we'll move right on from that one. Okay, so this one is not specific to vanilla, but I guess in a certain sense it is, because it doesn't really happen so much in later expansions, at least in the more modern ones. And funnily enough, I've actually heard so many people in my experience in Classic WoW that are saying, wow, it's been so long since I heard somebody say that. And we're talking about OOM, which stands for out of mana. It's probably been a while as a tank if you haven't played vanilla in a long time, where you've actually had to wait for the healer's mana, the mage's mana, and you can't just constantly pull the entire dungeon pack after pack after pack, which is why it's a really useful abbreviation to use. You just write OOM in the chat and then everyone knows in the group that you're out of mana. And I'm sure you guys have heard the jokes with boomkins who run out of mana in about 2 spells, where people call them oomkins. So if ever you see OOM, know that somebody's trying to tell you that they need to drink in order to regen their mana pool. All right, these two are really, really old school, and I'm going to cover them in the same little category here. The first one we've got is ding, and the second one we've got is woot. So ding, obviously everyone knows it's when you level up, you type ding in guild chat, ding in party chat, ding in /say, and everyone around you types grats or GZ for grats. This is something that's super common in vanilla, especially on a fresh launch. Levels are pretty hard to come by, especially once you get higher, and especially hitting level 60 is such a feat of strength that releasing all of the energy and writing ding with a bunch of exclamation marks and then having everyone, pat you on the shoulder and pump you up is just a really great feeling. It's different in the new game when you can hit max level in basically like 24 hours of gameplay. And commonly associated with ding is the word woot, which is a really old sort of exclamatory, exciting word that people would use from back in the old days. Every single time something good happens, you get a specific item that you want, you hit level 60, people would type woot with an exclamation mark. It's something that you see people use every now and then, and in the modern games, sometimes you'll see someone type this, and when you hear it or when you see it, you know that that person is probably an old school player from back in the day. And now that Classic has been reborn, I've been seeing a ton of ding all over the place, of course, a ton of grats all over the place, and I've also seen a good amount of woots as well. It's kind of a corny one, but you know what, it should be corny if you're excited and you're trying to portray that. All right, now this one I saved for last on the list because I'm sure a lot of people are going to get triggered by it, and a lot of people don't stick for the whole video. And it's not something that I personally use, and it's also something that I've seen pretty much die out. I don't really see people saying this at all. I haven't heard it in a really long time. But back in vanilla, back in the original game, I'm sure if you guys played it, you guys have heard it before. This was something that was super common. The abbreviation is DIAF. And a lot of you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, because back then it was the go-to thing to say when somebody got you angry. So if somebody trolled you, if somebody, ninja looted something, if somebody was bad in your group and maybe complaining all the time, whatever it was, if you wanted to express like a negative sort of attack onto them, you would always type DIAF, and this was super common back in 2005 to 2007, and even in the Burning Crusade as well. This is really not a great thing to tell somebody. What it actually means is die in a fire. And the only reason I'm mentioning it is because this is really like a classic thing. This is from vanilla back in those days, and people who played back then will definitely know of it. And it's also interesting, and I wanted to put it on this list because it's completely died out and I don't really hear it anymore. So I thought it'd be an interesting one. It's sort of like a little snippet in history, even though, it's not a great part of history. But if we only focused on positives in history, then we would never learn from our mistakes, right? It's kind of like the KYS from back in the day. All right, guys, I'm sure some of these examples are either very nostalgic, fresh in your memory, or directly correlated to your classic experience today. So hopefully this video was relatable to you guys, and I really hope that I was able to bring a smile here and there alongside it. Some of these are pretty niche, I'd say, like the European specific ones, for example. If you never played on European private servers, then you might have never really been exposed to that at all, but it's definitely a big thing on those servers. So that's pretty much what I got for you on this one, fellas. I really hope you enjoyed it like usual, and if you did, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, of course, you know the drill, soldiers. Hit the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a new video straight out of the render oven. And with that said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.